Is Facebook a communication device, or is it a truth machine? Manufacturing truths, selecting certain stories, diminishing, dismissing, censoring others. What is the role of media and social media in the stories we tell ourselves and the truths we believe in? Now, in this video, we are going to use a bit of Russia Today footage. And I know you'll say, well, Russia Today is Russian state-owned media. Yeah, so even with that. And then what about me? I've got all sorts of biases and concerns and interests. But together, let's look at Facebook, the comments from Russia Today, and a few stories about Facebook in particular that you might find interesting.
Seems Facebook's independent fact checker may not be so independent after all. A US congressman has questioned the impartiality of FactCheck.org.
Wait a minute, I've just heard I'm being paid by Vladimir Putin. Hold on, you can't trust me either. Who's saying that? It's still me. What? There's two of me? Well, at least.
FactCheck.org, which is supposed to tackle vaccine disinformation.
US Congressman Thomas Massie claims in a series of tweets that Facebook independent fact checkers brought in specifically to deal with what it calls vaccine misinformation are really funded by Johnson & Johnson, manufacturers of one of the vaccines. This issue of vaccines has become a contentious one. There's no denying that. There are some people that are very, very uncertain about vaccines, and some people that are ardent that it is the solution to the current pandemic. There's a wide spectrum of beliefs around it. So Facebook, as one of the primary places people in the world get their information these days, has a kind of de facto commitment to objectivity that if it's not fulfilled, for example, by having its fact checkers funded by Johnson & Johnson, that's a serious issue. That's going to be like, you don't need to get into conspiracy about is there a room, are there hoods, is there blood? You know, you don't need to get into that stuff. You can just say, hold on a minute, Facebook have called in independent arbiters to fact check the information that's allowed to go up on Facebook, specifically about vaccines. Those fact checkers, are they entirely independent? Are they able to assess information around vaccines from a place of total objectivity? Yes or no? Oh, well, they are funded by people that manufacture vaccines and are experiencing record profits because of vaccines. Oh no, don't have them then. Have someone who makes no profits at all. Now, I'm not talking about the vaccines, efficacy of vaccines, whether or not you should have vaccines. I'm talking about Facebook's independent arbiters are also profiting from vaccines being a good thing. That can't be in the mix. That cannot be in the mix. If I got my style advice from waistcoat or vest manufacturers and they went, Russell, you've got to wear vests, man. Not wearing vests, it's a bad idea for you, buddy. And then I find out, hold on a minute, I was paying you for them vests. Oh yeah, but that didn't influence. We were just checking facts. And the facts were people like vests. In a statement to RT News, Massie said, who pays the paychecks of the fact checkers? Which is a good tongue twister, but also an important question.
Who pays the paychecks of the fact checkers? The vaccine fact checkers at FactCheck.org.
Who pays the fact checker check? Seashells on the seashore.
Who claim to be independent, are funded by an organisation that holds over $1.8 billion of stocks in a vaccine company and is run by a former director of the Centres for Disease Control.
The Centre for Disease Control. We control diseases at this centre. You're not doing a very good job. They're all over the bloody place. Yeah, it's quite hard actually. It turns out we're going to need some more money off Johnson & Johnson if we're going to have any chance at all.
The foundation's CEO is Richard Besser, who was a former acting director of the Centre for Disease Control.
This is another one of those issues where people, you know, like the despair, the lethargy, the apathy that you sometimes feel around politics. Well, what can you do? It's just the way it is. There's nothing can be done. Well, don't have fact checkers funded by people that make money from the facts being presented in a particular way. Don't have a chairman that's been a director of the CDC. Just all of these are simple first day of society problems, aren't they? Right, what should we do? All right, well, we're going to need food, a drink, don't have corrupt people. I mean, it's really, really obvious. The fact-checking account responded to the statement saying, as you know, we disclose our funding sources here, www.factcheck.org. The foundation holds almost $2 billion in shares for Johnson & Johnson, one of the very pharmaceutical companies manufacturing the COVID vaccines. It'd be interesting to see if not only is Facebook censorial against what would be termed anti-vaccine information or pro-different treatments or pro-natural immunity or a variety of other topics that could be seen as adverse to the success and uptake of the vaccines. But what if it's specifically, and of all the vaccines, we'd have to say probably the best one. Do you know what I like? Johnson & Johnson. Good guys, Johnson. And Johnson I'm not so sure of, but Johnson, I love him. They're bloody good vaccines. And the baby powder, mamma mia!
The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation's one of the benefactors and holds billions in Johnson & Johnson stock.
The organisation claims there is no conflict of interest. Well, there's no conflict of interest because the interests are all going in one direction. The conflict would mean that there was some sort of pushback into the realm of objectivity. The more you look at the world, the more you look at big government, big business, and the sort of sub-organisations that regulate them, the more you find these peculiar coincidences and anomalies, i.e., in a sense, it's one entity. I don't mean that in a conspiratorial way. I just mean there are ongoing interests, relationships, and agenda that are consistently pursued by the people that participate in these systems. So it's going to obviously lead to particular outcomes.
But FactCheck.org claims there's no interference in its editorial decisions, and the Foundation's views aren't necessarily reflected in its decisions.
It's not necessarily going to affect it. Here's $2 billion. You do with that what you want. That's just $2 billion. Like, you know, we do make vaccines, all right, once in a while, sometimes when they're needed. But I don't. When you're coming up with what are facts and what not facts, don't let that get in your head. All right, you just fact check. There's $2 billion. Now check a fact. $2 billion. Check a fact.
But author and liberal studies expert Michael Rechtenwald believes such connections pose risks to the public.
We've lost all confidence in the social media and our mainstream media entirely.
I've lost so much confidence that I only push my voice through my nose now.
Anything that comes into contradiction with the leftist agenda is deemed misinformation.
Across the world, Facebook is becoming a kind of like a ubiquitous presence, a platform accessible to all, even more than in Anglophonic or Western countries in sort of what you could call developing nations. Facebook is sort of inbuilt into phones, so they have obligations around information that go beyond what you might claim are the necessary regulations for a private company. They're like a public broadcaster. So them having a fact checker that has any relationship at all with people that can benefit from certain types of information is problematic. In a sense, this points to many of the problems with privatized finance, privatized incentives. It shows you that there is a requirement for a degree of regulation and transparency. Just look at what's happening. Oh, we're just going to, why set up the regulatory body at all if the regulatory body is going to have a vested interest in the very area where regulation is required? Imagine the opposite. Imagine the fact checker was made up of people that sold like herbal remedies and like were just ardently anti-vaccine and ardently anti-government and like, oh, it's Alex Jones is on there. You know, you think, well, hold on a minute. These people clearly have a bit of an agenda. And like I say, whatever your agenda, whatever your perspective is, you have to be open-minded and open-eyed about the reality of the information you're being presented. Elsewhere, in another one of our videos, we talk about the sort of appetite for apartheid, like people who have not been vaccinated should be pushed this way. You know, I don't have a strong opinion about what you should do with your life. You should be free. I should be free. We should be free to talk. We should be free to disagree. Like, what I have concerns about are the legislation and regulation around the way that information is communicated, information is censored, because I want to feel like I can trust people. I want to feel like I can trust the media. I want to feel like I can trust the government. I don't enjoy sitting here actually, I do enjoy sitting here doing this. But like, I feel that the systems themselves are so dependent on their own sort of corrupt, spiraling interrelationship that it's not possible for it to operate freely. I don't even think there's anyone evil at Facebook or at CDC or whatever. I just think there's just a big sort of tidal rolling of profiteering that's so sort of embedded that people can't see that it's happening. It's bigger than them. That's what a system is. A system is like we're all a set of nodes operating in a broader trajectory, a broader telos, and none of us can sort of step outside and go, hang on, what's going on? Is this the best way to do things? And if you can't see a situation like a fact checker being funded by people whose fact it's checking, it is quite hard, then you're not open-minded enough. And I know that you are open-minded. I know that that's why you watch this channel. I know that's why you subscribe to this channel. I know that's why you'll be commenting and letting me know the truth as you see it underneath this, sharing this as widely as possible, subscribing, and if this is making you a little crazy, do some meditation over here on Awakening, or watch this video that's of a similar kind of vein, and sign up to russellbrand.com so I can communicate directly with you. Not directly, it'll be an email. I'm not going to be inside your mind, although, you know, that's the sort of thing that could happen if you're not careful. Stay free.